most creators are very unprofessional, just not communicative, sometimes very rude, not understanding like what it actually means when someone's going to pay you 20 G's that, you should be expected to like hit deadlines and like do some very basic stuff that you would normally do in a business transaction. And they just never did that. And so it always blew my mind. And so here I was like, you know what? I should maybe make some YouTube videos about this because this is actually interesting. Like how to pitch, how to negotiate, how to be on a call with a brand, how to like respond to emails, like basic stuff that seemed obvious to me. But all my friends would always come to me being like, hey, what would you do in this situation?
Welcome to the Nicholas Vitale Show. You're in for an absolute treat because we have Justin Moore joining us as a guest today. Justin is the founder of Creator Wizard, where he teaches creators how to find and negotiate their dream sponsorships. He's launched hundreds of campaigns with clients like Walmart, Hasbro, Kohl's, Disney, Ragu, Cheetos, Macy's, the list goes on. And if you weren't sold on his authority in this space just yet, alongside his wife, April, he's been a full-time creator for over 8 years and has personally made over $4 million working with brands. He also ran an influencer marketing agency for over 7 years that has helped other creators earn an additional $3 million. Wild. Riddle of the week: how can you tell if a tree is a dogwood tree? Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out. Let's get started. Hello and welcome. This is the Nicholas Vitale Show. I'm your host, Nicholas Vitale. Today we have a very special guest, Justin Moore. Justin, welcome to the show.
Whoa, what's going on, Nicholas? Let's go in the house. So if it's any indication by the sound effects that I have, this is going to be a fun one.
This is going to be a blast. We're going to waste no time. We're going to dive right in. Here's what I got for you. There's an 8-step process to successfully complete a brand deal. And what better place than to start at step 1? We got the pitch. How do you find the right person to pitch when looking to snag some brand deals?
All right. So it really is an art and a science, man. I have done hundreds and hundreds of sponsorships over the years. And so it very much is something that I learned through trial and error, pitching lots and lots of brands and trying to understand the hierarchy, marketing hierarchy at a lot of these organizations. So the first thing that I would say is that it really depends on the scale of the organization. So if it is a small family-run business, then it's probably the director of marketing. There's only one marketing person at that company, and they probably do everything, right? They do the social media stuff. They do the print, the penny saver magazines. They do the pay-per-click ads on Google. They're doing everything because they have all the hats, right? As an organization gets larger, they start to grow the team, right? So maybe you have a marketing manager then, maybe you have a coordinator. As you get larger and larger though, eventually a brand will almost always hire an agency, an advertising agency, a PR agency, sometimes even an influencer agency to handle all of this stuff for them. And so this is one of the first tasks when trying to figure out who to send this pitch to is who is the decision maker? Who is the person that is actually hiring creators, hiring partners to collaborate with? Because I think a lot of people think that cold outreach and pitching doesn't work. And oftentimes it's because they're sending it to the wrong person. They're sliding in the brand's DMs on Instagram and being like, love to collaborate with you, right? Yeah. And then they get left on red, or they say, oh, thanks so much, we'll pass it along to the right person. And it's just like, come on, right? And so it really does require that extra step, understanding how to interpret people's oftentimes LinkedIn titles and job descriptions and these types of things so that you can successfully send it to the right person. And so, yeah, it's actually way easier now than it was like when we started, 15 years ago, basically, because virtually every brand has an influencer marketing manager now, or that's for consumer facing, but for B2B facing, partnerships manager, like a lot of companies have this now. And so it's so much easier than it was before.
Yeah. Hot dog. Have you found a way to streamline the process? Because I agree. My experience is I've done the whole just DM the company and they're like, we're going to switch to email. And it's like, we know that's not going to happen, So yeah, right. In terms of finding the right person, have you found a way to just be like, this is it, quickly find them, quickly message them?
So I do, for sure. Like I have titles to target and titles to avoid. So for example, at a large organization, you would think, oh, brand manager. Oh, that's the person who I'd like reach out to. And at large companies, brand managers have absolutely nothing to do with partnerships like that. They're owning the P&L oftentimes for the product line or the line for that company. And so, you're looking for titles like influencer marketing manager, partnerships marketing, content marketing manager also can be pretty interesting because, you could potentially interest that person with generating content for them. So a lot of what I talk about is like, you have to pitch them something that is in their purview, right? So you're not going to pitch, oh, let me talk about you on my YouTube channel to a content marketing manager, because what they're responsible for is generating content for the brand's owned platforms, for their website, for their social platforms, and so on. And so the thrust of your pitch to that person is going to be, let me generate content that you can use, that you can repurpose. And so it is, like I said, an art and a science. And so oftentimes what you'll find is that I am not the person to come to for like, give me a template, give me the copy and paste, blah, blah, blah. Because like what I found over the years is that's how you get ignored. That's how you get ghosted. That's how you get rejected. So it is going to require a little bit of customization, some bespoke, personalization to ensure that you actually get this email opened.
As with anything, people want to be talked to like they're people. They don't want to be like in the rest of the group. Don't template-size me. Give me the goods.
Have you been reached out to?
I have.
To try to get people to be on your podcast, or to try to people to collaborate with you. And it's obvious when it's a copy and paste job. And it's like, no, delete. No, I'm not going to respond. No, that sucks. Contrast that with the people who research your stuff. They are obviously well informed with your audience persona, your listener persona. Like, that's the email that you're probably going to respond to, right?
This is true. I've had both. I've actually, as an example, the ones that send me like the copy and paste stuff, I always hit them back with, what was your favorite episode? Or like, what did you learn?
Get them.
I have to
gotcha.
know. Yeah. And they never reply. And then on the flip side, I had somebody who sent me like a full loom of like, hey, I listened to this episode. Here's what I took away from it. This is why I think I'm a good fit. And I'm like, I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate that way more than just throwing spaghetti at my metaphorical email wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's what I got for you too. I've heard you talk about when you're doing the initial pitch, don't include an attachment of your portfolio or whatever, because it's going to get blocked by a firewall. What are some things you should include in your pitch? What are some must-haves?
All right. So what I teach is what I call my rope pitching method. Okay. And what the rope pitching method is, it's a 4-step pitching methodology. R stands for your pitch has to be relevant to a campaign that they've either run in the past or are currently running. Okay. Your pitch has to be organic, meaning that you can tie your pitch back to organic content that you've already posted to illustrate that your audience has affinity for their brand or their product. P stands for proof, meaning that you can show how you've helped other brands achieve results. And E stands for easy to execute, when they actually say, hey, this sounds interesting. Yeah, what did you have in mind? Right. And so the form that most creators' pitches take is, hi, my name is Nicholas. I get this many downloads on my podcast per month. This is my audience demos. Like, I love your brand, would love to collaborate with you, right? That's the pitch that most creators send. Super boring. Your email gets deleted. That's what every single creator says. Okay. Contrast that with you. Give me what's a dream brand that you'd want to collaborate with, that you'd want to have as a sponsor of the show?
I want to be sponsored by Nike. Let's do it. Put me in some nice running shoes and shorts. Come on now. Come on.
Okay. First of all, way too selfish. Like, how is Nike going to help? How is Nike going to help your audience?
You just hit me with the dream.
I did.
I'm going to get them in shape.
It's not just your dream. It's not just your dream. It's about how you can help your audience win. What I would do is I would open up Nike's Instagram, for example. We're going to do a little bit of research here to figure out what is important and going on in Nike's world right now. Date of recording, I'm not sure exactly when this is going to go out, but we are recording this as of September 28th. And you know what's important right now to Nike? Probably their Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. That may actually even be a little too soon from now, because that's only 2 months away. They may have already inked that campaign months and months ago for a large company like that. So probably what I want to pitch them is New Year, New You. I want to pitch them, you know what people do around that time? New Year's resolutions. And you know what people want to do is they want to get back out there and running and get in shape. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to scroll down on Nike's Instagram to last January and see, what are they posting? Is there some sort of Nike hashtag New Year, New You with Nike something, right? A lot of brands do this. And then this is the thrust of the pitch, Nicholas. It's, hey, that's the subject line of the email. New Year, New You Nike campaign in 2024, ? And you say, hey, I saw that you were running this campaign last year. Are you going to be running that again this year? Because I often talk about on my show about the importance of building habits and blah, 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 blah. And then you link an episode where you talk about that.
Yeah.
Something you've already done to illustrate that this is a core competency of you. And by the way, if you don't have that episode yet, publish that episode before you pitch them. So you can get strategic about this here, right? Then, so that's the relevant part, right? Then the organic part where you link your show, right? You're not linking them your Apple iTunes show page because they're not going to listen to 50 of your episodes. They're going to listen to 30 seconds of one of them and be like, oh yeah, this sounds good.
Yeah.
Right? You link them to the exact episode that you curate, that you want them to listen to illustrate that you have authority here. That's the first 2 sentences of the email. And then you said, I would love to help amplify this campaign for 2024 in the following ways. I can do 10 host-read ads. I can, turn this, the first, I can give you a preview of it within 10 days. I can give you the rights to repurpose an audiogram of this or something. And, for 6 months, are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about this stuff I do? And then the final sentence is, let me know if you'd like me to send an example of how I've helped Reebok achieve, a similar results, or not Reebok, but you know what I mean? Like some other consumer brand that you've already worked with, you've got a case study of them. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about it? So that's the rope method. And so contrast, how much different than that?
Way different.
Different than I'm Nicholas. I get 10,000 blah, blah, blah per episode. They don't care. There's so many podcasters. People who have 100,000 downloads, per month on their podcast, dime a dozen. People have 100,000 followers on Instagram, dime a dozen. How are you different? And you know how you're going to be different is helping them accomplish a business outcome.
My goodness, Justin, bring in the heat. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to be sponsored by Nike by 2024,
yes.
No doubt. Hell yes. Easy money. Hey, Nick here. Hope you're enjoying the episode. I have a little surprise for you. I'm starting a free newsletter where I give away all my insights on podcasting, finance, entrepreneurship, and more. Click the link in the show notes and I'll send you a fresh batch of tips straight to your email each week. Easy enough, right? All right. Back to the episode. Let's dive into the next stage then, because you smashed the pitch stage. I feel like I'm ready to run through a wall with my pitch right now. I'm good to go. Negotiation.
If every client or everyone I talked to felt like they were going to run through a wall, like that would just be that is going to be my new goal with everyone that I work for.
I think so. Yeah. We can make that a testimonial on your website. Made Nick run through a wall.
Yeah.
Negotiation and pricing. And you've laid out 4 pricing models: competitive pricing, cost plus, dynamic, merit-based. Give me a brief overview of those bad boys, and then tell me which one you've seen be the most lucrative in your experience working with other creators, for yourself, all that good stuff.
Okay, so I think that creators go through an evolution depending on where they're at in their journey in terms of how they price. Not enough people think about that there's actually styles, right? Like of how you can actually arrive at a figure of like how much you're going to, charge the brand. Oh, I just saw in my email inbox, I got a payment from a sponsor. This is money. Money is like, let me just, I mean, like seriously, like this is like money is falling out of the sky today. No, I swear I'm not looking at my email. I just literally saw it come up and I was like, whoa, that's cool.
It's amazing.
So competitive is the first one, right? Because this is oftentimes how it happens. Like you have a podcast, you have a newsletter, you have a YouTube channel, whatever. You're not thinking of sponsorships as the first thing. Like you're thinking of the craft, right? I'm going to just do this thing. And then what happens is a brand comes into your inbox for the very first time saying, hey, we're going to pay you to talk about us. And you're like, how much do I charge? And so what's your first reaction? You're going to go DM your friend who's also a podcaster and be like, hey, how much do you charge for ad reads? Is this what you did? Is this how you figured out your first rate? I don't know if it is, but like, this is a lot. This is like, honestly, what the majority of the time, this is what happens. And so what happens in this scenario is you try to draw a parallel to your friend. So your friend's getting 5,000 downloads per episode and you're getting 2,000 and you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to charge 40% of whatever he's charging because, whatever, this seems right. A couple problems with that. Number one, how do you know whether your friend is charging the right amount? How do you know whether your friend didn't ask someone also and mirror their pricing incorrectly off someone else who was also pricing? So it just very quickly becomes a problem. The next is cost plus, right? Where you get a little smarter now and you're like, okay, I've been doing the competitive pricing for a while, but I actually have hard costs associated with creating this content. Maybe I'm let's say a DIY creator and I have to go out and buy a bunch of materials and it takes a lot of time and I got to flip this thrift store find using this lacquer from this, whatever, this brand. Yeah. That's a lot. I got to cover my costs and they need to pay for the materials. Like this is an important thing, right? And so I'm going to get smart about it. I'm going to cover my costs plus an arbitrary premium. So my time and I want to get paid $100 an hour or whatever it is. And plus 25%. Right? This is how I'm backing into it, right? And then we get into the world of dynamic and you start to think, okay, I'm starting to kill it, starting to crush it, starting to get some deals. You know what? I'm starting to get busy around the holidays. for example, because that's when every brand wants to market. So, you know what? I'm going to jack up my rates 2x during the holidays. Supply and demand, baby.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, you know, the brand has to, you know, I'm just too busy. So, you know, pay my rate or it's, you know, my way or the highway.
Kick rocks,
right. But the challenge here is that you have now made it very difficult for that brand to put you into their planning and their budgets, because they may have worked with you a month ago. They had a great experience. And now they come back to you knowing that you just charged them one rate for a deal that they just did with you. And they said, oh, that was great. Let's put Nick in our holiday campaign. And they come back to you and be like, great news. We got the approval from the brand, the agency, approval from the brand to work with you again for the holiday, and say, oh, sorry, my rates have gone up 2x. And they say, oh, have your downloads gone up 2x? And you say, no, I'm just really busy around the holidays. And they now have egg on their face.
Yeah.
They now have to go back to the brand. They promised that they could secure you for this campaign, but oh, surprise, surprise. You know what? It's tough because Nicholas just arbitrarily changes his rates now. So I'm not sure that we can work with him anymore. We're not going to put him into our budget. Yeah. You're unpredictable. What I'm not saying is like, there's not justification if your like concrete metrics go up. Yeah, sure. If your show grows substantially, then you have, of course, cause to increase your rates in that way. But if you're just arbitrarily changing stuff, yeah, maybe you'll make some coin in the short term, but you're now illustrating to the brand that you're not, they can't rely on you to have any sort of like certainty with respect to your rates. The final bucket of pricing style is called merit-based. And this is the core of what I teach, is that how much you should charge the brand ultimately relies on what your value is to them. There's that, you know, the old adage they have about like how much water is, right? So water is free if you go to a lake or a pond, or hopefully it's a running pond and not standing. Don't drink standing water.
Yeah.
But then, you know, if you go to a big box retailer, Walmart, Target, or whatever, you know, you can get a bottle of water for, you know, in a 24, 48 pack for $5 or whatever, right? Yeah. You go to a concert venue and that water is going to be $10, or they take the cap off. What the heck? Like, you think I'm really going to like fling that cap into the, anyway, right? But it's like, depending on where you are and the value to that consumer, the price changes. It's the same commodity. Right. And so the same principle applies when you're a creator. I'm not saying you're a commodity, but what I am saying is that what you are providing to a brand changes based on the brand's objectives. Right. So if they are hard up for a fintech podcaster who talks about a very specific type of SaaS tool, there is a limited pool of those people that exist in the world and in the universe that they can potentially partner with. And so your negotiating leverage skyrockets when you are negotiating with a brand like that. And so it's very important that you suss out these things during the initial discovery and conversation with the brand, because you may charge that brand $20K for the same deliverables that you charge another brand $5K. And this blows a lot of creators' minds, and they think, well, that doesn't make sense. I have a rate card and I charge the same amount for my podcast ad reads, and it's the same, you know, I just slide that into everyone's things. And it's like, how do you know whether that brand didn't have a budget of 100K or 50K, and they could become your title sponsor for the entire season? Like, how did you, if you don't have a conversation, how are you going to know? Podcasters love doing this. They love, send them to like their Airtable or their like, you know, booking link, like, buy all the slots that you want, $200, use Stripe, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, fine. Yeah. Ease of use. Yeah, maybe that's great. You'll get all your inventory filled, but wouldn't it have been easier to just have one conversation and fill out all your slots for the entire year for 100K? That's probably easier.
Yeah, a lot easier. And a one-stop shop. If I can get one person to cover all of those, I think you're making a great point around value-based. And it's almost pairing with the pitch idea, because you can angle yourself as a unique offer that nobody else has. So when you're going in with those deliverables, you can mix and match. Whereas if somebody else is just spewing the same package all the time, they're getting the same results. You can say, hey, this is different. And I love the part about the goals too. If it's valuable to the brand and it's solving their pain point and they're in some real pain, that's going to increase the value of what you can charge them.
Okay, we're getting into it. Let's just dig right into it. Okay,
let's go. Come on, let's get.
So there's two buckets when it comes to your levers as a creator when it comes to pricing. Okay, the first is the objectives, right? Because there's three. I call it my ARC framework. Okay, ARC. A stands for awareness. Okay. This is where a brand is launching a new product, right? Maybe they're launching in a new territory. They were in the UK. Now they're in the US, and they just really want to spread the word. Okay. That's awareness. R stands for repurposing, where the primary reason that they want to hire Nicholas is because they love your beautiful hair and your name and likeness and the lustrous sound of your voice.
They like it.
Sultry. And they're like, we need an audiogram from Nick to run paid ads. That's what we need. Okay. And that's the reason they want to hire you, is to repurpose your content. The final C in the ARC framework is conversion. And the reason that they want to hire you is to do a podcast ad read where you're going to drive sales or you drive trial signups to their thing. And, Natale 20 for 20% off your first purchase of Athletic Greens, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Like that's conversion, right? And so the reason that you have to ascertain the goal as a creator is that your pricing should change. Yeah. If it's an awareness campaign, like the brand, let's actually talk about conversions, right? In the Athletic Greens example, they have a very specific set of CPA metrics. It's called cost per acquisition. So they know that their LTV or their lifetime value of one customer to Athletic Greens, if they sign up for and they make one purchase, they know that that person on average churns after about 6 months. So the average order volume, let's say it's $100 a month. I don't know, I'm making up numbers. $100 times 6 months, $600. So the average user, the average sign up is worth $600 to Athletic Greens. If you get 10,000 downloads on average per podcast, they know that of those 10,000 listeners, maybe 10% of those are going to click the trial sign up link in the show notes or whatever. So 1,000 people go over to that landing page. Of the 1,000 people that go to the landing page, maybe 100 sign up for the offer. So 100 times 600, that's the max they're ever going to pay you.
Right.
That's the max because, again, and it's not, by the way, they don't just want to break even. They want to make a profit. Money. That's the whole reason that they're doing influencer marketing. And so in those situations, if you're ever feeling frustrated that a brand is like not willing to negotiate with you, it's probably because it's a conversion focused campaign and their hands are tied because they've got these metrics on the back end that they're beholden to. Contrast that with an awareness campaign, Nick, where they are saying, oh, we just want to spread the word. We want to get a groundswell of support of this new product launch or whatever. What's the metrics that they're tracking? Downloads, your views, engagement, comments. It's squishier. Yeah. They're not, that person's boss isn't going to the, coordinator and being like, how many sales do we drive with that, one episode of Nick's, show? They're not saying that, right? And so your negotiating leverage in an awareness campaign goal type is so much higher, right? And so this is why you have to intimately understand what the objectives are. Okay, so this is one bucket. Okay, the other bucket over here is called the DUE rule. DUE. D is deliverables. What do they actually want you to do? Partnership. They have many forms, but sometimes brands will come and say, oh, we just love your podcast. It's so awesome. And we just want to keep it organic and authentic. We'll do a couple of posts and how many ad reads? Yeah. How many posts? If it's a YouTube video, is it integrated? Is it dedicated? If it's Instagram, is it reel? Is it photo carousel? Right? You have to get into the details. Exactly what do they want from you? Okay. U is usage rights. Okay. Does the brand want to, remember the repurposing goal type we talked about? Does the brand want to use your content in other ways beyond you talking about them on your show? Yeah. Right. And so maybe this is ads, repurposing on the website, on an e-commerce partner, putting it on their social channels, et cetera. And for how long? Do they want to do that? Right? They can't do it forever. Can't do it perpetually. If you've ever signed an agreement where you said perpetual, this is what happened if you signed a perpetuity clause. Don't sign those clauses, everyone. Just don't do it. And E is exclusivity. So oftentimes brands will say, hey, you cannot work with any of our competitors for a certain duration. And so you better be pricing that opportunity cost into your deals. And so these are the two major buckets when you think about pricing. And for those of you listening who are like, this is so much work, I'd just rather send my rate card. And I say to them, if you educate yourself around this, if I told you that you could make 10 times more on sponsorships, would you do it? Because this is often the outcome when people educate themselves around this process. I'm not lying. I've worked with hundreds of creators who've gone through my program. So it can be life and business altering.
Yeah. Let's double down on that point. So if somebody's listening to this and they're a creator and they're kind of getting that sense of hesitation, based on all of the influencers and creators you've worked with, what area do you see most people leaving money on the table? Is it lack of effort? Is it somewhere getting lost in some of the sauce here? Where is it?
Let me give you one tactical and one mindset related. Okay. Let's start with the mindset. So much of our ability to advocate for ourselves and ask our worth comes from how we were raised. Because if you grew up in a home where money was tight or it was taboo to discuss, and then now somehow you're thrust into a world where you're trying to scope or calculate your value or your worth, it's very easy to just feel so honored and validated when a brand reaches out to you. Oh my God, they recognized me. I've been slogging for 3 years with this podcast and finally I'm getting recognized. So who am I to ask for this amount of money? Or who am I to counteroffer or negotiate? And so oftentimes it's within our own heads. It's we just don't really believe that we're worth it. And so oftentimes a big suggestion that I have to creators who are struggling with this block is you've got to do the work. You've got to do some inner work, some inner child work. Maybe it's therapy, maybe it's journaling. I'm not prescriptive on this piece, but like, this is real. This is real stuff before you get into the templates and the frameworks. And I've talked a lot about that, but this was actually a big discovery that I made candidly when I started educating people, because I jumped right into the frameworks, right? Because I'm an engineer. Like I don't have that issue. I've never had the mindset issue or the confidence issue. And so it blew my mind that like hitting send on an email was like scary. Like that's so scary to a lot of people. And I was just like, that's fine. Just hit send. No big deal. They don't respond. Not a big deal. Just like do it again next time. Like, but it's a big block for a lot of people. So that's a mindset piece. The second one is tactical. Big error here is when a brand asks you how much you charge for an ad read, you spit back one number. You say, oh, $200 or $500 or $1,000 or whatever. And instead of asking questions, acting interested in the outcome, designing a bespoke proposal for their purposes with multiple packages to help them understand of all the other ways in which you can impact them. They may not know that you have a newsletter with 40,000 people on it. They may not know you have an Instagram with 50,000 people and that you can amplify the campaign. And so if you just spit back whatever they're asking for, they'll never have awareness of that. And so this is one of the easiest ways to upsell your deals.
Yeah, I dig it. More recently, I can't hit send if I don't have 3 tiers because I can't price anchor toward the one that I want. Like, I know you talk about package 1 needs to be like your hell yes. You need to be excited that they want to buy the first package. I need the middle one to be able to sway them to the more expensive or to the lower one. If I don't have all 3, that's where I get in trouble. So I feel like I have to implement something like that.
100%. And like, this is one of the quickest ways to get burnt out when doing partnerships is you are not being aggressive enough at your lowest tier, because so often the brand will ultimately end up picking that. And then you're just like, I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this. This is so low.
This is so low. This is so much work. You know what the solution is? Just double it or triple it until you get to a point where even if they pick it, you're like, hell yeah, let's go.
I can do this. This is easy.
Yeah.
All right. So you did, I believe it was like 50 days, 50 shorts, all about different types of sponsorship platforms that you can. Oh my
God. You really went into the back catalog here.
Oh, just wait, Justin. We got some deep cuts coming up. But that, in that regard, which have you seen be the most lucrative in terms of those sites? But also, do you prefer outbound, just like cold DMs over those platforms, or is the convenience worth the trade-off?
I would say, okay, here's the beauty of being a creator is that there's so much deal flow that exists everywhere. Yeah. So people like get jaded. They're like, oh, there's so many brand deal platforms. Like, oh, I want to sign up for another one and authenticate my platform. Blah, blah, blah. Even today, my wife and I get emailed all the time about, oh, join our new platform. And I'm always like, okay. Right. And so like this is literally, as long as it's legitimate, we sign up. I remember this one time we signed up for a platform, seemed, slick, nice UI, all this stuff seemed good. Didn't hear from them for like 6 months.
Ooh.
And then they came to us and they were like, hey, we've got a $30,000 deal for you. Boom. Just like,
whoa.
Yeah. And you know what? The lesson here is that oftentimes brands have these very, very specific criteria for certain campaigns. They want a certain type of creator or a certain type of voice or a certain type of something. You just weren't a good fit for whatever all these other campaigns that the brand was working on. And then they finally found, oh, this is the one that's perfect for Nick. This is one that's perfect for Justin. Let's go reach out. And so this is the value of signing up for all these ones, because you never know what campaign you're going to be a good fit for. And this is really the reality, is that this space is so fractured that if you're a brand who wants to do influencer marketing, you're Googling influencer marketing software programs, and they're all running ads, like Google ads. And so it's just like, it's so difficult to know. And so like every brand under the sun is just using different tools. And so it behooves you to be on all these tools so that, you never know like what brand or what company like uses which software, and you may end up getting that deal. And so the answer is like, yeah, there's some that are better than others, but the reality is you should be on all of them, because you never know where the deal is going to come from.
That's good advice, because it doesn't hurt anything either. Like, what's the harm? You're going to get an extra email in your inbox every now and then.
Just set up a filter. Stop being lazy. Just set up a filter if it annoys you, and or hire a VA to like, kind of make flag, develop a SOP and say, hey, these are the ones, the criteria, as long as it's above this amount, or as long as it's this type of brand, push that into my inbox. Otherwise you yeet it.
Yeah. You're big on VAs. You're a big VA guy.
I wasn't for a long time. actually. We started our first channel in 2009. Yep. You can believe it. And didn't hire our first VA until 2 years ago. So, yeah, we dabbled with a few freelancers here and there, editors and, community moderators and thumbnail artists, et cetera, but like full-time VA 2 years ago. And I've totally like changed my mind on the utility of that. I was just like, honestly, being super naive and lame and thinking, how could anyone ever possibly understand how I run my business? How could anyone ever understand like how I do stuff in my business with, all that stuff? And so I've totally turned 180 on that one.
Love it. I'm glad to hear that it's bearing fruit these days.
Do you have a VA?
I have had a VA. I don't currently, but I have had a VA, and I think it's worthwhile. Worthwhile.
How come you don't have one now?
We do these in seasons, so now that we're back in season, maybe I'll pick them back up. But we're on a break for like 3 or 4 months, so a lot of the admin work kind of disseminated. You know what I'm saying? It got rid of in between the 2 seasons. So
I don't know what word was the word
disseminated.
Cinnamon?
I think it was disseminated. There's a lot of cinnamon now, so I was like, "There's no more room for you." I bought too much cinnamon, so
decimated. That's not the word.
Disseminated. I thought that was the word. No, disseminated. I like decimated though, because this feels like I like crushed
disseminated.
I don't know. Okay.
I'm not trying to be like a grammar police or a word police here, but I truly didn't know what word you were going for, so. We can move on.
I actually kind of like cinnamon the best. I think,
cinnamon, yeah.
I think I'm just going to edit in cinnamon.
yeah, it's perfect. It totally makes sense.
I'm glad you brought up 2009 YouTube, though. This is what I have on you. Or 2009 creator, YouTube, family vlog. That's where you started. How's your perspective changed on YouTube since the origins? And how long did it take for you to go full-time from AdSense, if that was the transition?
Quick chronology.
Please.
2009, my wife started the channel, not me. I don't want to take credit. It was her. It was not me.
Shout out April. Shout
out April. I was doing the corporate track. I was in, medical devices. First of all, she was getting a bunch of free stuff, dude. It wasn't getting paid in the beginning. And there was no partner program. There was no partner program in 2009. You could not make money on AdSense. So it very much started as a passion project. First, it was brands started reaching out, offering free stuff. So it was like free hair curlers and cosmetics. And my wife was like, yes, I have succeeded in life, because it's like, so that stuff's expensive when we were in young 20s, didn't have much. Right. And so it wasn't until the first brand reached out offering to compensate her. By this time I was in business school and she was like, what the heck do I do? I don't know. And I was like, I'm Mr. MBA. I can read this contract, this type of thing. I should have. Yeah, exactly. Totally had no idea what I was doing. I remember we asked our family lawyer to look at one of the contracts one time and she was like, what is this? Like, what even, what are you doing on the internet? Like, this is so weird. And I was like trying to describe it. And it was like, it was terrible. Bless her heart, obviously. Yeah. So it wasn't until 2012 that my wife, she was a preschool teacher, obviously, as her main hustle, and then quit in 2012. This was like planned. Like, it was something that we spent a long time trying to figure out, okay, how can we make this work to plan this? And so 2012 was when she quit. I didn't quit, kept my full-time job critically with benefits, all that, right? And then basically our metric was like, okay, our goal was, we said, I cannot quit my job until we are making $10,000 incrementally a month above my current salary.
Whoa.
So I was making 6 figures at that time in medical devices. And so, it was like, I don't know, I didn't quit until we were making that, basically, whatever that number was. And it was 6 weeks after my first son was born in 2014. And so that was scary. It was so scary. Like, if I go back to that moment, I remember when I quit my 6-figure job with benefits, everyone in my life, dude, remember this is 2014, was like, are you high? You're quitting your 6-figure job to be a YouTuber?
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you? Because this was not a thing. We knew no one. We knew very few people who were doing this full time. And so it was a very, very small community. And so we very much felt like we were kind of like blazing a trail kind of. And it was very, here's what it was, dude. It was like, both of my wife and I have always been very entrepreneurial from our very early age. Some of the things that we used to love when we were dating early on is we would go to thrift stores and my wife would find designer jeans and resell them on eBay. That was what she loved to do. And then I was an art broker for a while where I would find stuff and garage sales, estate sales, flip it on eBay and auction houses and stuff. That's a whole nother story. Yeah. But very hustling. That was always our thing. And so our 9-to-5 jobs, we always looked at those as the side hustle. It was never like, oh, this is I want to climb the corporate ladder. That was never even on our radar. It was always we're just tinkering with all these other side hustles. And so when we finally saw so much promise in the YouTube stuff, that was when we was there's this opportunity cost here. Imagine if we could spend 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week, whatever, on this like YouTube thing. Yeah. What could that become? And so like that was what gave us the courage, I think, to dive in and really try and grow it.
And it seems like it's had a wonderful payoff ever since. Good for you guys for taking the plunge.
It hasn't. So thank you, but we've had so much failures. Like I am very transparent with this stuff. Happy to share it, but like, yeah, dude, I've had some major failures like in my life that have like, humbled my ass. I don't know if we would swear, but yeah.
Let's talk about the 100K in the hole. Trending Family LLC. Dude. Let's talk about it then.
Trending Family Inc. Small correction there.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, we're an S Corp. 2015, take you back. Transport time machine, hot, like we're crushing it on YouTube. All right. Yeah. We're making $25K a month on AdSense.
I love it.
Alone, $25K a month. I mean, we're like, I remember we were in Forever 21. I remember this. We were like shopping for clothes. I'll never forget this. And we got the statement, the revenue statement for that month. And I pulled it up and it said $25,000. And I walked up to April and I was like stunned. I was just like, I pointed to the number and we both stood there and we like jumped in each other's arms. It was like $25,000 for a single month of just posting YouTube videos. What the hell? Right. And it was just wild, dude. And yet I always, even in that moment, I was like, this cannot continue. There's no way that we're going to make this forever. Like, there's just no way that people are going to watch us forever. There's just no way. Right. And so I always was thinking, like, how can we diversify our revenue? I've got to work kind of brainstorming, like, what can we do? I looked at like all the success that we have had doing brand partnerships. I looked at my experience set as like a product manager, project manager in medical devices as like, this is what I did in my day job, like deadlines and, all this stuff. And I was like, I actually think that we're pretty good at this stuff because we have a lot of repeat customers, a lot of brands, agencies are coming back to us over and over. So we're doing something right. And so I was like, let me actually try out and go out there and get deals for other creators. First of all, I went to our friends who are creators and I was like, hey, can I put you in a deck? Can I say you're in my like roster? I'm not going to manage you. I'm just going to bring you business. And they're like, sure. You want to bring me business?
Yeah,
I don't care.
Right.
Sure. And so made a deck, went to the brands that we just worked with. Hey, are you looking to work with more creators? Because I've got this agency and we can actually facilitate deals for you for a management fee, campaign, management fee. And they were like, sounds great. And so I remember the first deal we ever landed was $50K.
Whoa.
for like, for multiple influencers and stuff. But I just remember that money hitting our account, Inc. Account. And I was like, this is nuts. This is crazy. That was more than we had ever been paid on a brand partnership personally at that time. And so it just felt, wow, like this is working. The dollar sizes are going up. And so you can imagine things started going really well. Like we had hit our focus at the agency was we only work with family friendly creators. And this was perfect timing because YouTube was having all these brand safety crises. These big advertisers were having their ads run alongside like terrorist videos or like, like crazy content. Right.
Was this the adpocalypse? Is that what they called it?
Yeah, the adpocalypse. There was multiple adpocalypses, but like this was, they removed, Coca-Cola, AT&T, they removed all their spending. It was like a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And so here I was being like, we only work with family-friendly creators, right? And they're like, here's all of our money, right? And it was like, but it was timing. It was like luck. I couldn't have timed that. And so things just started going, like all these clients, like all this stuff I hired multiple full-time employees. Like I was flying out to agencies and doing the lunch and learns and doing the whole thing, dude. And it was like, this is great. This is going to be our ticket to diversifying the family income. That was like, that was the whole goal, the whole reason I made the agency. Along the way, things started getting a little bit harder because all of these, venture capital dollars started getting injected into these, VCs started getting excited about the creator economy, investing tens of millions of dollars in these new influencer agencies, all these slick software dashboards that they had now. And I was like, oh, we need that too. If we're going to compete, we need that. So sunk 50 grand to developing our own dashboard, hiring a, really well compensated VP of sales and like all these in retrospect, like things that it was like, oh, that was actually not a good decision. But at the time, we had this big pipeline, like I was taking out a line of credit so we could fund all this stuff, right? And then COVID. So the pipeline got eviscerated. It got cinnamoned. And it got, the pipeline got cinnamoned, had to lay off all my employees. Honestly, it was the worst time. It was one of the lowest points of my life, dude. Just be completely honest. I was crushed. Not only did I spend, by this time, 2020, 5 years of my life sinking like blood, sweat, and tears, promising my wife, this is going to pay off. This is going to pay off. All the time away, traveling, the conferences, the clients, like all the late nights, it's going to be worth it. And so for that not to have happened and to be in the whole 100K was absolutely crushing and demoralizing. And so here I was in this really, really low place, thought to myself, okay, I suck. Is this it for me? Is there going to be a phoenix rising out of the ashes story here? Because it didn't seem like it. It seemed like this is the end for me. I'm going to have to go back and get a corporate job, whatever. I actually have a really interesting perspective here. I've been in the trenches doing deals for years as a creator, but I've also been in these like boardrooms with all these big brands and these big advertisers who are spending not just like $5,000 sponsoring one creator. They're spending like $1 million now, or 500,000. Like we landed some of these deals as an agency, like almost 500 G's, dude, across like, 40, 50 creators, this type of thing. It's a totally different conversation. Platform strategy. What types of creators should we be working with? It's a very long sales process, like all this stuff. And so I was like, through running the agency, me and my team had now been on the receiving end of thousands of interactions with creators. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something, dude. Most creators are very unprofessional.
Yes.
Like, just not communicative, sometimes very rude, not understanding like what it actually means when someone's going to pay you 20 G's that, you should be expected to like hit deadlines and like do some very basic stuff that you would normally do in a business transaction. And they just never did that. And so it always blew my mind. And so here I was like, you know what? I should maybe make some YouTube videos about this because this is actually interesting. Like how to pitch, how to negotiate, how to be on a call with a brand, how to like respond to emails, like basic stuff that seemed obvious to me, but all my friends would always come to me being like, hey, what would you do in this situation? I never thought it was going to be my new business, dude. I was never like, oh, this is going to be like, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to like do a course, like never. Right. And yet people started liking the videos. Hey, can you make a video about this? They started DMing me. Hey, I don't have a manager, but I'm working on this deal and I don't know what to do here at this juncture. Can you help me? And I would just be like, sure. So I literally would get on like Zoom calls with some creators, like as if I was like their advocate, but I would just introduce myself as someone on their team just to like help out and like someone, my friends. And so it was like more and more people started kind of coming to me for advice on this stuff to the point where, people started asking me to coach them, do courses. This is the kind of the quick evolution of, actually it wasn't quick, that was long. But like this was the evolution of how I started educating creators around sponsorship strategy.
Amazing. That's incredible. I empathize with the lows that you had to hit to go through, but this seems like you're having such a meaningful impact on all of these creators' lives. And I think something that I've been learning recently too is like when that demand is there, that's like the initial part of a business that you need because then you can understand people's pain points to actually make a difference. A lot of times, the majority of my failed businesses have come from ideas. Like I have ideas about things that I think people will like or think people will want. But you saying there's demand, that seems like you can just slip right in there. I can help.
So, what's interesting is that was how the agency felt in the beginning. It felt like they were coming to us. It was not hard to get meetings, right? But then it was like an imperceptible switch. Like a couple years into the business, it started getting harder. It started getting more saturated. It started feeling like we were pushing the boulder uphill instead of the boulder kind of us guiding it downhill. It was like, it was so much more work and we were chasing clients a lot more. From the very early days of Creator Wizard, I have literally never chased anyone, not one person. People have inquired of saying, hey, how can I work with you? How can I join your program? Now I've done obvious stuff like follow up with people, right? Like, hey, you expressed interest. Just wanted to let you know the course is now open for enrollment, like simple stuff like that. But it's always been from like their volition coming to me and inquiring, how can you help me, basically. And that's such a different dynamic for me. That's why I think it's so exciting and so fun to do this, because it's like people have like raised their hands and I'm like, I need help. Like, please help me. It's never felt like I'm selling anyone on anything. It's like, no, I know this is going to work. I can help you. Just please let me know how.
I actually want to bring up something too. How you closed your business, I felt like was a very good testament to your character, Justin. I'd love for you to share how that came to be.
When COVID happened and I had to lay everyone off, remember I was 100K in the hole. That 100K isn't disappearing. Got to pay that down somehow. So I ran the agency for 2 more years by myself, literally by myself. And so I did a bunch of deals acting as everyone, the campaign coordinator, doing all the contracts, all the logistics with the influencers, like all that stuff too. And I just chipped away at that debt one by one at the same time as starting to do these Creator Wizard videos to kind of scratch that creative itch. But what started to happen as that time went on is I would reach out to an influencer for a campaign, be like, hey, this brand wants to work with you. Are you interested? And they'd be like, Justin from Creator Wizard. I love your content, man. How much do you think I should charge on this campaign? Yeah. And I'd be like, oh my God, because now I was speaking out of both sides of my mouth because truly my client was actually the brand, not the creator. Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to get the most efficient ad spend or the most impactful campaign for my client, which was the brand. Basically kind of talking out of two sides of my mouth when I was interacting with these creators. And so I basically came to this crossroads where I was like, a lot of people ask me like, why don't you just kind of try and restart the agency? Like the economy is like doing a little bit better now. Yeah. You can be a little leaner and, you don't make the mistakes you made before. And I just, honestly, the decision was it was made for me because it was like, I was having so much more fun. I was like being drawn towards something that felt so soul-centered. They talk about the kind of ikigai thing, right? It's like this intersection of like what you're good at, what you love, and what the world needs, or whatever that intersection of that Venn diagram is. I very much felt drawn that the Creator Wizard education stuff was that. And so I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. This feels very disingenuous that I'm trying to like talk to two different parties in this like ecosystem, And so I just decided to like, once I pay off that debt, I'm shutting this down, the agency model. And so that was a really, really hard choice. So it marked kind of the closing of a chapter of my life, but the opening of another.
I'm happy that you're where you're at now because you're helping so many people.
Appreciate it, dude.
Absolutely.
And would I ever have had a sound like effect like pad if I was running an agency? Like,
absolutely not. You can't have both
absolutely
of those.
Not. There's no reason to have that when you're running like a boring agency, right?
Give me another sound. What other sound you got on there?
Sometimes when I tell creators to delete their rate card from their media kit, I get blank stares.
Ooh, there you go.
They're like, I don't understand that, right? Or if I tell them that to stop complaining when a brand tells them to edit like 10 seconds of a voiceover for the ad read, they do this to me. Justin, no, you're violating my creative integrity. Like that's what they say to me.
I've heard you say this before, Justin. If you want to have an impact, your mission has to live on without you. What's your mission? What's your mission, baby? And you could take this as a career or as you as a person too.
Let's talk about the life stuff because I think that's something that's more on my mind these days. When I ran the agency, I very much thought I wanted to grow this huge company. That was cool. Employees and like growing this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I loved working with they were amazing people. I loved working with them. And, I thought that like growing this big agency and then maybe one day selling it, like that was, I was like, fascinated with VC and like all this stuff, right? I didn't raise VC, obviously, but like that was what was like sexy, right? Of like, I'm on the Twitter sphere and like, reading all these books and all that stuff. When everything crashed and burned and I really got a true opportunity to reflect on what I wanted Creator Wizard to be, I realized that like, I don't want a 100-person company. That actually runs very counter to the life I want to lead. Like I really value being able to just like pick up and, if my wife, for example, gets an opportunity or we get an opportunity to like go on a travel deal somewhere. We've done deals with like Royal Caribbean or places in the Caribbean or something like that, right? I value being able to just like pick up and be like, hey, we're going to be gone for like 10 days or whatever. Like, and there's no one really who will like look down on that kind of, that dynamic was always a little weird at the agency, because it was like, I never set that expectation that like, hey, this is like something that my family and I are going to continue to do because we're still creators, right? And so there was something weird there and that was my fault. But from the beginning, I very much was like, okay, I'm going to have a handful of VAs. I now have a director of operations and community who actually was a student of mine now helping me run the business and some freelancers, editors, writers, this type of thing. And that's it. Dude, like I can very easily see this business being $1 to $3 million business a year in a couple of years. And that's an awesome life, dude. My oldest is 9. Mm-hmm. So I have basically 9 more years until he's out of the house. And that terrifies me.
So you're going to kick him out of the house? It
terrifies me. Yeah, I tell him, hopefully he's not. I want him to stay as long as possible. But I think I've sufficiently brainwashed him that his only option is Berkeley because we live in the Bay Area. And so I was like, dude, like Berkeley, Stanford, like that's sorry, man. Like that is one of those two things. Like you got no options here. Honestly, that terrifies me. And so the strategic decisions that I make in the business today are informed by the life that I want to lead, the husband I want to be, the things that I want to be remembered for. for. And so like, if I switch to the business hat, like I want to help creators big and small land 1 million sponsorships by 2032. That's a lot of people, right? That's a lot of sponsorships. And so the scope of my mission has grown significantly since I started doing this. You heard it here first. Like I'm working on the book. I have arrived at the write a book chapter of my world domination plan. We'll have to see how that goes. I never ever thought that was going to be the case, but like, and frankly, it's because I didn't realize the chasm of knowledge between like, I always thought this was like obvious. Like you got to advocate for yourself and get paid with your worth. It's so vast, the chasm. And so it's like, I realized the true, like, here's the other thing. Dude, I got into this being like, I'm going to help social media creators, right? Because that's what I know. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, this type of thing. But I started getting all these other types of creators, podcasters, bloggers, newsletter operators, like all conference organizers, dude. Wow. Like I've done one-on-ones. Yeah. So it's like all these other people who are making lots of money through sponsorships. That's like kind of their primary revenue stream. They're like, hey, it seems like you only work with social media creators, but can you help me? It seems like maybe you can help me. For a long time, I was like stiff arming them, like get away from me. You're not.
I don't want your money.
You're not my customer persona. You know, like this. You're like, get away from me, right? Yeah. And I hired a copywriter to help me with the sales page to my course, and her name's Perna. And one day we were just on Zoom, and she was like, "Why are you doing that? Why are you why are you excluding all these people?" Like she said something that I'll never forget. She said, "You are depriving people of a tremendous change in their lives and businesses by not helping them." And I was like, oh, okay, that hit me deep in my soul. It spoke to the mission-driven part of my identity. Because I was always like, anytime anyone would reach out and be like, hey, can I join your course? It seems like it's for social media creators. I was like, well, like 80% of it is going to be great for you, but these 20%, it's really not going to be applicable. It's more for social media creators. And so I kept doing that and people would join and they would get value out of it because I gave them that disclaimer. Yeah. And so I kept doing this. And I was finally like, okay, let me just go and see like how much work would it be to actually like add some additional examples of like podcasters or this type of thing. And it took me literally like 4 hours. And I was like thinking it was going to be this like big thing. And so I made this change about a year ago that I now serve both social, people who are building on social platforms or owned platforms, bloggers, email operators, conferences, like this type of thing. I look back on that decision and that was really, there was a big inflection point when I did that.
That's so great. That's so powerful too, of like, you can change people's lives. And I think sometimes we neglect the fact of like the transformation that happens based on the services we provide. So I love that she held the mirror to you. Justin was like, look at yourself, man. Come on.
Dude, seriously.
Yeah, it's good. Justin, we are rapidly approaching the final question of the podcast. Well done. You made it.
Thank you. Thank you. I made it to the gauntlet.
But before we do, I'm going to acknowledge you for all that you're doing. I feel like I've stated this a bit throughout this episode, but I really appreciate all that you do because you are providing tools and resources for creators to be compensated what they're worth and have the tactical and the mindset that they need in order to be able to continue to do what they love. And I think in turn is also providing value to so many people. Like if you think about the exponential butterfly effect you're having is wild. So I really appreciate all that you're doing. And I appreciate you coming on here and hanging out for a little bit.
Really means a lot to me. Honestly, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Final question of the podcast. We danced around it a little bit, but what does it mean to live a fulfilling life?
I think about this question a lot, actually, because living a fulfilling life has changed for me in different chapters of my life. When I went to college, I thought that being a millionaire, I have to be a millionaire by 35, and that's how I'm going to be fulfilled. Then I met my wife, obviously girlfriend at the time, and I felt even more compelled by that mission because I thought that the only way in which I could provide for my family is to be a millionaire, is to provide for them financially. Because I guess somewhat kind of traditional in that mindset that I always wanted to provide for my family and provide for my wife and all that stuff too. It was tough for me actually when my wife's career grew so significantly to a point where I was kind of in the background. And I'm just going to be totally real. Like, it's not like she ever expected that either, but it was a challenging dynamic for us. It has been throughout our relationship because I've always wanted to be the provider, but it's been so hard because she is so successful. She makes so much money that it's like, man, like I'm trying to like catch up with you. And it's like a good competition to have, obviously. Yeah. But like, it's always been gnawing at me that this is something that I want to do. I want to provide for my family. And so it took a lot of self-reflection for me to have the humility to realize that, you know what, it's actually okay. It's actually okay if that reality of the thing that drove my core identity for so long, there's no real action that I can take right now to change that reality. I think oftentimes in life, we feel so constrained by our circumstances and feeling like we have no agency over the choices we make or the things we do or the goals that we have or whatever. It was actually when I finally made peace with that it actually happened for me, that I actually was able to achieve the thing that I ultimately wanted when I wasn't so obsessed about it. I actually followed my passion and I followed the creativity and I followed the kind of trying to figure out what my zone of genius was through this like battlefield of failures. Like it was on the other side of that I've now like got kind of a tiger by the tail, it feels like, with this new business. And now it's like I'm basically kind of, almost surpassing my wife in terms of her. But again, it's like, who cares? It's like we're married. It's like we're both contributing to all this stuff. And even if she one day doesn't want to contribute anymore, I just think it's funny. Like while you're busy making plans, life has other plans. That's not the same, but you know what I mean? It's like, you can want things one way, but it's like, it's just not the cards that the universe deals you always. So I think that's like a fulfilling life to me is just like, now it's like being a good dad, being a good husband, like having an impact on as many people as I possibly can, until the day that I die. Like I cannot imagine like this actually was brought to the forefront because I had an offer to acquire the company. Not so recently. And it made me sit and reflect and think like, what would a universe where I didn't help people with sponsorships? What would that look like? Yeah, probably I would stay on with this other company and there'd be an earn out clause and I'd have to stay there for a couple of years. And then it's like, yeah, okay, what's after that? Like I'm sitting on a beach. Like that sounds absolutely miserable. Yeah. And so like, I now know that like, this is what I have to be doing for the rest of my life because I can't imagine myself. I can imagine myself doing it until the day that I die, basically. So to me, that sounds like an awesome life.
I love it. And I love that you had the opportunity to make a decision to decide which way to go. That acquisition had to have been tempting. So I really, I'm happy you mentioned that. Justin, where can people connect with you on the internet? Where can they say hello and tune in?
All right. Well, as any good creator should do, I'm only going to give you one call to action.
Yes.
Okay. Because what most podcasters do, follow me on social and go follow me on all these different platforms and blah, 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 blah. And then people do nothing. Okay. So what I'm going to do for you, everyone listening, creatorwizard.com/join. My free newsletter, I send it multiple times a week. If any part of this conversation tickled your brain, you want to learn more about this, I talk about, negotiation strategy, mindset, but probably the main reason that you want to sign up, Nicholas, is I send you paid sponsorship opportunities for free every single week. So if you don't want that, I don't know what's wrong. Like,
sure do.
Maybe you've got some, you've got some cinnamon in your brain or some, your ears. I don't know what it is. But cinnamon. You're definitely going to want to sign up for that. Again, creatorwizard.com/join, totally free. I would love to connect with each and every one of you.
Love it. That link will be in the show notes. Justin, I got to say, there's probably been less than a handful of people who have done the one CTA. Now we're talking. If that doesn't prove your authority in the space, I don't know what does. Go say what's up to Justin. Sign up to his newsletter. I'm signed up for it. You're going to love it. Justin, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. This is great.
Thank you for tuning in. The real reason you're still here is you want to know the answer to the riddle of the week. I know that. But before I give you that, I want to remind you to leave a 5-star review. And if you want more podcast content just like this, we have early releases for episodes this season on our Patreon, patreon.com/Nicholas Natali. Riddle of the week: how can you tell if a tree is a dogwood tree? By its bark. By its bark. Dogwood. Bark. What's up? It smells like up dog in here.
What's up, dog? Nothing much. What's up with you?
Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next week, Friday at 6 a.m. Bye.